Mom, I'm paying for candy and she said, because you're kids. And, and I spoke and said, he gives it to us. And he was charging my mama and daddy for it.
I see. Huh.
So.
So if your mom was bringing groceries back for this big family, was she carrying a lot of groceries? Is that a lot? That seems like a lot of groceries. Yeah. How would she carry that many groceries?
I don't remember. Of course, they bought it like the beans, potatoes, and different things in big sacks. And that was once a month. And my daddy would bring them in the truck or in the car.
Okay. So when you say, so your mom might just be going for a few things when she's walking. Yeah. I'm trying to get a picture in my head of what that would be like. And politicians would just stop and. Yeah. She knew they were politicians. Did they say who they were or how?
Yeah. They would tell her, "Yo soy Gonzalez," or whatever the person was running or voting for. And my mother would say, "No, just leave me alone. Yeah. I've carried these things all of my life, and I can do it again. Or I can still do it," something like that.
And it said, Susanna wrote that you don't think your mom ever voted?
I don't remember if she did or not, because my mama stood up for herself.
Yeah, she didn't speak English.
Well, she didn't speak very good English.
And
she spoke better than Daddy did.
And did your father vote? Do you know?
I think so. Yeah, because I remember taking him once. We used to go to the little school to vote.
So if you can remember growing up then, because women voting was very new.
Yeah.
Did you remember thinking much about politics or voting back when you were young?
I guess not, because I never thought of anything about it. I don't even remember when because I don't remember even voting when I was young.
Well, I'm trying to remember, because remember it used to be 21 and then they moved it down to 18, but I think that was in the 70s, 1970s, around there. That's how it affected me, I know. So I'm guessing that you would have had to have been 21 when you were first eligible to vote, right? Do you think?
I guess so.
And where would you have been living when
in Magdalena?
Still in Magdalena at age 21?
Yeah.
What was going on back when you were about that age?
God, I don't remember.
Were you married yet?
All I remember was living in my mama's house when I was about between 9 and 10. Some little nun come in dressed in black to the house, and she wanted to speak to Sarita, and that was me, to teach religion. And I got several kids, and she even I think Susan's got the book that I asked the questions out to make First Communion.
So like catechism, you were teaching catechism?
Yeah.
Okay. So was that a job you got paid to do, or did you just?
That's volunteer, helping the priests and the nuns. Well, we didn't have nuns, but.
Well, who was that nun? Did you know that nun?
That nun came from Albuquerque. To Magdalena. And I guess the priest from Magdalena told him, I think the name was Barrett. Something in my mind said like Barrett.
Well, there's a Barrett.
B-A-R-T, I think it was Barrett.
Why do you think they asked you to do that? Were you known for teaching?
Well, I used to go to Mass. Mama and Daddy and I went to, well, all of us went every Sunday, but during the week we my mama and I went to mass every day.
You went to mass every day?
Mm-hmm.
And the other kids didn't? Or you weren't that much older than them, right? Or that was something that was more important to you?
Well, it was important because my mom used to take us, and two of my brothers, Jimmy and Pete, were altar boys. They helped the priests.
What's the name of the church that you went to?
Mary Magdalena.
Oh.
And all I remember that in one corner there was a big red, white Sacred Heart. Really big. And up to the date, I still see that big Sacred Heart.
Like it's a heart with the thorns and.
Like this one, Mom?
Yeah.
Oh, it's with
the image
Jesus?
of the Sacred Heart. So it's Jesus that shows his heart.
Okay, yeah, I've seen that. So do you think you were teaching catechism when you were about 21 or so? When did
it might have even been sooner than 21.
When she was really young, they came to get her.
I was young, and then I don't remember how many, 21 kids or something like that, boys and girls, and I taught them the religion, and got them ready for the first communion, for the what's the other one?
Confirmation.
Confirmation, and in the month of May we all set the rosary, the kids and me, and at the end of the month of May we crowned the Blessed Mother. I picked out some little girls and little boys with baskets with flowers.
Yeah, we did
flowers.
that. I went to Immaculate Conception here in Albuquerque, St. Mary's. That was a big thing for us to be the May Queen and with the flowers. Yeah, that was a big thing. Well, now when do you leave Magdalena? Were you in your 20s then, or?
I think I was 22 when I got married, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, it might say it in here, but so your husband was working at the CCC camp near Magdalena.
Oh, yeah, they were there. He was already in their service, but they were knocking the Susi train police out and carrying the stuff to Albuquerque to use it at the camp where he was stationed.
Well, no, I'm not sure I understand. So, what was going on in the camp? What were they working on? What project were they
They
part
were
of?
tearing it apart.
Tearing what?
The CCC camp.
The CCC camp.
Oh, they were tearing it down.
Yeah.
And taking the materials to Kirtland Air Force Base. That's where he was stationed.
Someplace.
Oh, wherever.
Kirtland or Sandia Base.
He was in the military?
Oh yeah.
Army or Air Force?
Air Force.
Air Force.
They called it the Army Air Corps at that time.
Oh. Was he, now I don't know my military very well, but would he have been maybe a private or airman?
Well, he was Army. He was Army.
I mean, in other words, he wasn't like a high-ranking.
Well, he was promoted to lieutenant.
But back when you first met him?
Yeah,
Was he not a lieutenant then when you first met him?
Yeah, he was.
Oh, he already was a lieutenant?
Because he retired as a captain.
Okay.
But he went overseas.
So how did you meet him?
There, I was working at the Hammond's Cafe, and during the day I served as a waitress at the Hammond's Cafe.
Hammond's?
The Hammond Hotel?
There was a hotel on one side, the Hammond coffee shop on the other side.
Like Hammond, like Hammond?
Yeah.
Apostrophe S? And is that in Magdalena? Is it still there?
No.
No, it's not there.
No, that wasn't there. That was in Albuquerque.
No,
Yeah.
that was in Magdalena, the
Was
Hammond
it in
Hotel.
Magdalena?
But didn't you work at the drugstore at the corner?
From working from the Hammonds, I worked there until 3 o'clock. And from 3 o'clock, I went across the street to the
Drugstore?
yeah, to where we sold ice cream and malts.
Do you remember the name of that drugstore?
Oh, God, that's what I'm trying to think right now.
It's still there.
Keslica. What is it? What was it? What was the name of it?
I might have a picture of it in this book. I'll
It
look.
was a picture of it because next door was the post office. And in the post office was where your daddy proposed to me. And that was on Valentine's Day. But what was the name? Kistler, Kostler? What was the name of the...
It wasn't a chain, right? I mean, did they have those things back then? Because I know Albuquerque had a Kresge, but Kresge was in Albuquerque downtown, long time ago.
I can't remember.
So he used to come into the Hammond's Cafe, and that's how you met him.
He ate there a lot. I used to hate him because he can keep his eyes away from me, and I get under the counter or something, and he'd still be looking. When we got to the cash register, then he started talking to me.
Now, eventually, then you moved to Albuquerque, raise a family, 3 kids. Here's one right there. I'm wondering when you don't really remember exactly when you started to vote. Do you remember being interested in politics at all, or voting, or government, or?
Excuse me, I still haven't got
I know.
rid of my
I hope you're okay. I know you've been under the weather.
When I think I was, well, I think I started voting when I was in Albuquerque, because I remember the grade school working on giving the numbers to vote, you know.
Oh, did you work at the polls? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you remember anything about, because I'm guessing back in those days women were not running for office very much, were they, or?
Not that I know of.
Yeah.
I mean, that I can remember.
I've been sort of looking at the history, not a lot happens until much later.
Yeah, all I can remember was big men politicians. But I do remember when what's his name? Bill, what's his name?
Bill Clinton?
Yeah.
Or Kennedy? Which one were you thinking of?
It was Clinton. It was Dave Clinton. That Daddy and I vote.
Oh, he died before then, so I don't know. It would have had to have been.
Where did we vote for them when Daddy was in? Because we always voted Democrat.
Was it before John F. Kennedy? John F. Kennedy?
Oh, yes.
Was it before him that you were trying to remember?
Yeah.
So we're talking about a candidate, presidential candidate.
Yeah, because I remember voting for Kennedy, and I was working for the church when we heard the news at 12 o'clock that they had shoot. And I called Monsignor and told him about it. And he said, oh my God. And we had even taken Monsignor down closer to Harris, because the president was coming. And Frank and I picked him up and took him to go meet him when there was a lot of people for Kennedy.
Imagine, yeah.
That was sad. He would have been the first Catholic president.
Mhm.
Well, he was president for a little while.
Yeah,
Before he,
and then they killed his brother too.
right. So back in, so when you're talking about that time, that's starting to become part of the women's movement.
Yeah, it was in 1920
Oh, a different women's movement.
that they tell me that ladies were allowed to vote.
Right. That's when you were born, though, so you
Yeah,
probably don't remember all
I
that.
don't know all of that. It just,
She was a smart kid.
Yeah. What about in the, so it'd been like the late 1960s, 1970s when women start marching for their rights, equal
Burning their
rights,
bras.
yeah, burning bras, protesting things like, I'm trying to think of the name of the famous person.
Gloria Steinem.
Yeah, Gloria Steinem, all those women's lib. Do you remember much about that? No? So that was
when was that?
late 60s, early 70s?
That's when I was in high school. You were probably trying to keep track of me.
Probably so, because I don't remember.
So you weren't involved in any of
No,
that then,
no.
I'm gonna guess.
The only time I was involved in that was when I was standing at when they would come and vote and I'd give them a number or take a number or something.
Do you remember where you did that? What poll or what precinct you worked at? Where it was located?
It was in Albuquerque at the school. What was the name of the school?
Was it by our house?
Yeah,
Armijo?
Armijo.
That's an elementary school, right?
Mhm.
Is that where your children went to school, or that's
They
just
went to Catholic schools.
Oh, they did. What Catholic schools? I'm just curious.
And what was the name of the school? 'Cause I
St.
was
Anne's.
president of St. Anne's.
And then my sister and brother, did Sonny go to our Immaculate Conception, St. Mary's?
Well, St. Mary's.
St. Mary's,
They both went to St. Mary's.
yes.
Really? What were their names? Or what years would that have been?
Well,
Okay.
she was born in 44, he was born in 46.
Oh, okay. So I'm born in 57, so that would have been before
Yeah.
me. Yeah, I went to St. Mary's 9 years. There, I would have gone more, but they closed the high school already.
I know,
The high
it's-
school was closed,
Yeah.
so that's all right. I lived 4 blocks away from St. Mary's, actually. That's my neighborhood.
It's so funny. I'm going to tell a little, get off of the story. I have my daughter had a little granddaughter, and she used to hate me when my daughter's son and his wife would go to a ball game because, what was her name? Annette?
No. The one with the real curly hair? Michael's?
The one that used to kick my legs. She
Oh, yeah.
hated me. I don't love you, Grandma. I don't love you.
Oh.
And Daddy and her mother would go to the ball games, and they left her with me. And you and Larry walked in one night while she was mad kicking the door, and Larry told her, "You don't have to kick the door, because anyway your father and your mother are gone." And then one day, I used to go to St. Mary's school, and they happened to be at recess. And she was calling me, Grandma, come pick me up, I don't like it here. And I thought to myself, golly, she didn't used to like me, now she won't. She
Now
had
she
the little
Oh, yeah, the little beanie.
beanie y'all used to wear.
Oh, gosh, I forgot that we used to wear those. I wonder where mine is. I actually was one of the weird ones. I liked our uniforms, or the skirt part, or the jumper when you were younger.
Yeah, I used to make them for them. I made some for
Really?
the school at St. Anne's,
Huh. Yeah, because
In
ours had
fact-
pleated skirts. That's hard
In
to.
fact, in Albuquerque one time, no, it was in Colorado, when we were having Kids Day, they would bring them to the show.
Hmm.
And they all talked different things. And one little girl came to me and she said, "This is my uniform. I go to the Catholic school." And I said, "You know what? I used to make them for my girls when they went to Catholic school." And she went and got her mother from over there and showed her that I used to make them. So they talked to me about it, and I said, "Yes, I made them for my girls." And a lot of the mothers didn't know how to sew, so they came to me and I made them. And I never charged them a penny.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of work. Huh. Goodness. So, Armijo Elementary, you volunteered as a poll worker,
Well,
precinct
they
worker,
asked,
whatever they're called.
and I think they paid $15.
Oh, they pay a little bit. Okay, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, you said you've always voted Democrat, and this is the first time any of us have gotten the chance to really vote for a woman for president. What is that?
And I'm pulling for it. I even read a note that said, "Hooray, Clinton, we're gonna do it. Up, up, up." And I kind of encouraging her that I'm going all the way for her. And my husband was here, he would do it too. Because we voted for your husband. And I like you, and you're gonna do it.
Did you say you wrote a note to her, or what do you mean?
I mean, that's what I was gonna say to you, in case it came out in the paper, you know.
Oh, okay.
I want her to see it that I'm still for her.
Okay. So you've never sat down to write like a letter to her, nothing like that?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
I wish I had to.
I actually sent things on Hillary's website about my mom.
Oh, okay.
Just saying she was born on that day and she's voting for her and that kind of thing.
Do they respond to those sorts of things? Because they probably get a few.
Bazillion.
And I wouldn't tell that old man he's blonde.
Do you think his hair's blonde? I don't know what his hair color is.
It used to be.
It's hard to tell.
I mean blonde, and I think he used to tease it because I think his head was that big in his hair. And he had about 4 blonde girls working under him. And he said he never fired any of them, and he sure did.
Yeah.
If they didn't do what he said, he let them go. He was a mean old man.
Mm-hmm.
And nasty man, too.
Well, you know, he says he does his hair himself, even though he has all the money to pay for hairdressers. That's why it's so weird. I read a story where his hair is really long, actually, up here, and when it's wet, it goes down to his, if he brushes it forward, it goes down to his chin, and then he takes it and he folds it back and sprays it with a lot of hairspray. Because you notice it doesn't move very much. And then he takes this part and hairsprays it, and then it's kind of longish in the back sometimes, I guess. And he thinks that looks great.
He's the ugliest man I've ever seen.
Well, he doesn't think so, I can tell you that. He thinks it looks great.
Yeah, he thinks all the women are after him.
Yes, I believe he does think that. So you don't think your husband would, if he was still alive, he would not have any problem voting for a woman?
Oh no, he would go for her. In fact, the other night I heard a voice, "Mama, go Kennedy, go Kennedy."
Kennedy? What do you think about voting for a woman? Like any woman, or is it just specifically her?
I think it's time.
Here, I'm just going to sit here. That might help a little bit. Is it coming out okay? Uh-oh.
I get coughs like that.
I know. My husband's sick too. So.
I was home for a few days when I had a cough, and I could have gone to work, but I felt bad because I thought, oh,
Everybody's
people
gonna
around
think.
me will be mad at me because
Yeah.
they're like, we don't want to get sick.
Right.
So I just stayed home and worked from home.
Yeah. Well, it's good
That's
you
why
can do
we all
that.
sick. Because one goes.
Do you want more tea?
Uh-huh.
Who are these priests and are they family members or just?
Well, she was with all of them when they were ordained and fed them at the church. They were part of the parish that she was a cook. So she was at his ordination, and they've remained friends. Well, she doesn't hear much from Father Robert, but he's pretty famous now.
This one in the black and white?
Yeah. And then Father Terry works in Peña Blanca. He works with a lot of drug rehabilitation.
He's my favorite one.
Father Terry. He said he'd come do a mass for her here. And then Father John is retired, but he fills in up in Colorado. And then Monsignor Bassan was the Monsignor, and he's in an assisted living in Washington, D.C. now. But they still talk too. And this is her bobblehead Pope.
I saw that. I didn't realize it was a bobblehead.
Yeah. Friend Center bobblehead Pope. I like that bobblehead. I showed her your bobblehead Pope that Lynn sent you.
Wow. A lot of memorabilia. Religion is obviously a very important thing to you, it appears. You were a cook at St. Anne's, is that like in the school cafeteria or the church?
I was at the
Rectory.
priest's house.
Oh. Okay.
Right next to the church. I worked there for
20
some years. And
you want me to show her your thing? This is what they gave her at her retirement. It's got the names of all the priests engraved on the back.
I was surprised. I wasn't expecting that.
It looks like Nambeware.
Yeah. So it says, presented to Sarah Griggs with sincere appreciation for your 21 years of dedicated service at St. Anne's Church. And then they engraved all the names of the priests that they could remember. Not including, guests like bishops and people like that. Because they found out she was a good cook, and at the meetings the priest would have, they'd go to different churches, and they all always wanted to go to her parish because she made homemade food, because everybody else did takeout.
Oh.
And she did things from scratch, so.
And every Monday a meeting was supposed to be at a different parishes, and some of them would try to take them out, and they didn't want to be taken out. The priest wanted to go to my place, and he called Monsignor, and Monsignor said, well, you have to talk to Sarah. And then they called me and talked to me, and I said, well, you have to talk to Monsignor. And they say, Monsignor already talked to us. And I said, you know what, this is not fair. Somebody's supposed to be cooking at your place. He said, well, I don't want to take them out, and the priests don't want that. They want to cook, homemade cook. So every Monday I was
Did you have a specialty dish that you made, or what were you famous for?
Different times. But one time, one of the priests, I think you saw his name there, Father Eston, came to me and he said, Sarah, do you know how to make barbecue? And I says, do you? Do I? And I says, sure. And he says, well, you make the barbecue and I'll buy the buns. I says, you don't have to buy the buns, I'll make the buns.
Oh, you made the buns
And he
too.
said, you are going to make the buns? I says, Father, have I ever lied to you? And he kind of agreed, and he says, go ahead, do whatever you want to. So anyway, I made the barbecue. I fix 5 pounds of beef and 5 pounds of pork, and I cook them until they were well cooked. In there I put brown sugar, the ketchup, and Worcestershire sauce, and I got it ready, and I made the buns. But I done with the buns. I made the dough, but I didn't let them raise. I made little balls, and I got 3 cookie sheets this big and this wide, and I put them all and put them in the oven, and I just put it at 350, and then at the last minute I turned it up and left the buns in there to finish cooking. Golly, they turned out so good. I mean, I hate to brag on myself, but I cut them and I put them in, and I made potato salad and coleslaw and 4
By scratch. Wow.
And 4 kinds of pies. And I know they love, the priests all love apple pie, but I made lemon meringue and 2 apple pies, and I think I made a chocolate pie.
That seems like a lot of work.
But it was, you know what, well, I was young and I loved to cook, and I enjoyed it, and a lot of people came to confession at there, but the priests were the only ones that ate there. And when they ate, every one of them came to congratulate me. It really turned out good. I was so happy.
Well, and so, but if you had to, if you were told, you know, make your favorite dish for us, what would that dish be?
I used to love, what was it called? A pork roast kind of roll.
Like a tenderloin?
Yeah, and I roasted, and then I made it, the sauce with apricot sauce, and put it all over, and made mashed potatoes. I didn't put any gravy because I had enough of the sauce from the apricots.
Right.
But I put salads on the plates, and everybody serves themselves. And that was one of my favorites.
That sounds great. Wow.
And then for Thanksgiving, it was ham and turkey.
Both of them, both ham and turkey.
Yeah, because there were sometimes I had a lot of priests.
Yeah. Well, what about, were you also cooking for your family too, or was this when they were older? Or?
Well, I always cooked the way I cooked over there. So.
But she was on her own. We were already away from home when she started cooking there. Actually, she was 54 when my dad passed away.
Oh.
And she had never really had to work, and so when he passed away, that's when is that when they asked you to go to cook at the church, or did you do something else?
Well, I went to do that when I opened my own coffee shop.
Mm-hmm.
And then I sold it and closed up, and I was tired of cooking. And then one day I left my glasses at church in the pew, because I used to go to mass all the time. And I called to see if I had left my glasses there. And he said, yeah, we found some glasses on the pew where Sarah Griggs always sits. And I said, will you save them for me? He said, sure, but you have to come to the church, to the office and get them. And I knew something was going to happen. And I went after 2 o'clock, around 3 o'clock. He says, come in, Monsignor wants to talk to you. And I thought, oh, dear Lord. And he said, I hear you're a good cook. And I says, who's been talking about me? And he said, well, different people. So that's how I got the job for cooking for the priest.
Wow.
Monsignor got me into it. But he was so good to me. I mean, I can't complain about any of it. Father John was a teaser. He was a teaser.
A teaser.
He used to make me so mad. I used to fix his breakfast in the morning. I had to soft boil 2 eggs. And one day he calls I've been here, or Susan called him, I don't remember. And he said, Sarah, all I remember was how mad you used to get at me when I used to swallow I said, don't tell me, you're going to make me sick in my stomach. because that's what I used to tell him. He would swallow them out of the plate. He wouldn't even put toast or anything.
Oh my. It's like, what is the, oysters or something, you know, you swallow those. Huh.
I used to tell him, you're crazy, Father John. But he was a good-looking priest, and he was nice. But well, he started drinking, I think, because they sent him to Houston. And how I looked that up, I never know, because I never had computers
Internet
like you all have now. And I says, I've heard a lot about Houston. And he left a number for me to call if I ever needed him. So I did, and in the news, I heard something about Houston. And I said, I figured Father John was drinking. So they changed wine to grape juice in the masses.
Little known secret of. I always assumed it was wine.
Yeah,
For
my
certain
sister,
priest mass probably.
Maybe better not to in some places.
my sister used to work cleaning the church, her and her husband. And one day they made a delivery, and they said there was wine, and she argued with me until I says, Mary, don't argue with me. I put up with this. You just do the delivery. But I didn't want to let her know that it was some wine.
Yeah, sure. Speaking of, you had 3 kids, and so I know Susanna's one, but are there other daughters or brothers?
Well, my oldest
sons?
one passed away.
Oldest son, did you say, or
And my
oldest?
son lives here. He doesn't. I'm surprised he's not here.
She had my older sister passed away,
Okay.
and then now my brothers and me are here.
Her name was Sarah Francis, because when my husband was overseas, see, I got pregnant 3 months before he left. And I told him one day, if I have a girl, I want to name Sarah Francis, because he was Frank and I was Sarah.
Oh.
Come in.
Excuse me, Miss Sarah. Hi.
Hello.
Was she gonna have lunch in a little bit, or?
What's for lunch?
We
I
have
don't think.
fish sticks, fries, and
What are you
veggies.
having?
Fish sticks, French fries, and veggies.
No, I don't think so. She bought me some stuff.
Maybe I'll go get her something else.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good cook.
Thanks, Miss Sarah.
She's my favorite.
Oh, okay. Well, this is a nice little setup here. When your husband left overseas, where did he go? What was?
I went back to Magdalena, and then from Magdalena I went to his folks and stayed over there.
But where did he go? Are we still in a war or?
Yeah, World War II.
It was World
He
War
went
II
to
stuff.
Germany.
He went to Germany.
And I went to Lawton, Oklahoma to stay with his folks.
Oklahoma.
Mhm.
So I'm wondering, it sounds like the way you described your mother, she was pretty independent, and she, you know, that she would just tell politicians, don't bother me, I carry these stuff, I can carry. Would you say you're pretty much like her too?
Am I, Susan?
I'm not gonna say you answer.
I kind of think so.
Ask the caregivers.
Yeah.
They have to earn her
Yeah.
trust.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what they have a hard time sometimes, because you know they just have to earn her trust.
Sure. And so, when you look at the history that's being made with being able to elect a woman president, assuming that happens, we don't know. Of course, we don't know. But what you've seen a lot of history. Does it surprise you that you're finally able to vote for a woman for president?
Sure.
Or tell me a little bit about your thoughts about that.
Well, why is it if a woman can run a home, run with her take care of her children, send them to school, take care of them until they're on their own, why can't a woman be a president? Especially Clinton, she's good at that.
Yeah.
And I will vote for her.
You already did though.
Yeah.
Swallowed something wrong.
Do you want some water?
We should have.
I think it's okay.
I think I have a glass of water here.
Well, we can go
someplace.
get her one if she wants.
And I haven't drank from it.
I just want you to know I'm not giving you germs. It's just that you swallowed something badly. Thank you.
Be sure you get ice in it.
How do you follow the news? How do you follow? I mean, how have you learned about Hillary?
Through the television, yeah.
So you watch television news
Uh-huh.
in here? Oh, I didn't see that television behind us.
And they're so good.
Yeah, that looks like a very nice one.
Yeah, the kids.
What kind of what do you have a favorite news show, or what do you watch?
Well, I go for sports.
Sports. Huh.
And I really like sports. And I live in Colorado, so I went with them, with the Broncos.
The Broncos. Oh, thank you. You've been up to Colorado?
Oh yeah, I lived over there for how long? 3 or 4 years?
Yeah, well, a couple times.
Yeah, that's right, twice.
Yeah. That's where we retired from.
Oh, that's right, because I asked you because you had a Colorado
Yeah.
phone number. What part of Colorado? I lived in Colorado for a while. Denver?
No,
Longmont.
Longmont.
Oh, Longmont. Okay. I went to school at University of Colorado in Boulder.
She did too.
Did you?
Yeah, I was a non-traditional. I went at 38. 38 years old.
So what years would you have been up there?
90.
Oh,
92, 97. I got my BA and MA there.
Huh. I went in the 70s when I think it was a little more affordable for students. And I don't know how students do that now. I don't know how they do that.
Oh, she worked with that, and she was a secretary for the main principal or what?
Well, the dean and then the vice chancellor.
Oh, wow. So when you get your news and you're watching your news, is there a particular news program that you like the best, or?
I like Channel 7 or 13.
So local news.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get cable on this, or is it just local stations?
It's cable.
Okay. So you don't watch, like, I don't know, CNN or Fox or?
It's hard for her to find the channels. She pretty much just punches a number because she can't see very well, and her dexterity, it's really hard to.
Okay.
Or unless my brother can help her if he happens to be here.
So I'm interested that, you know, your mom doesn't sound like politics were a big deal for her. You don't really know if she ever voted, but you voted, and not only that, but you voted in this historical election. What do you talk about it to your friends, to your family? Is that something everyone's sort of in agreement? Because you know, a lot of families have had a lot of problems this election because they don't all agree.
Yeah, I noticed that, and especially last night news when that guy went around asking about the politicians. Everybody was kind of, that they were fighting among each other, and I don't think Clinton does that. She puts things straight. The other one cuts the other ones, Clinton, down. In fact, yesterday I think he called her, what did he say, something about blood?
Oh, that was the interviewer,
CNN,
when she was interviewing him from Fox. It's part of the advertisement.
Blood coming out of her eyes, blood.
Yeah,
yeah. That one was a
he
weird
was
one.
nasty. That guy, I hope he doesn't win. And I'm so scared if he wins, we're going to go to war again. And go into Mexico and bring in drugs. And My mother came from Mexico and she never bought any drugs.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, you know, when he first announced he was going to run for president, that one of the very first things he said was, Mexico is not sending us their best. They're sending
Criminals
drug
and
people,
drugs.
rapists, and some he imagines are good people. You know, like maybe there's a few good ones in that whole bunch. So if your mom came from Mexico, what does that make you feel like when you hear somebody say something like that?
I can get up and tell him, "You're crazy. My mother was a good woman. She never bought drugs. She never drank, and she smoked a little bit, but she quit that real well. And she raised 8 good children. And he raised with my uncles and aunts. She was the oldest one too."
Do you think you'll be watching the election returns? I mean, is that something you do, or?
I'm going to try to.
Of course, we don't know if it's going to be a really late night or.
Well, they told us it wouldn't be. It's going to be rough because I'm anxious to find out.
Yeah.
I hope we get.
We all are.
I hope we get a lady president. I think she'll make a good one because look what she done when she was secretary.
If you can remember, way back when you were very little, could you imagine when you were very young ever getting the chance to vote for a woman president?
I never dreamed about electing anybody.
Oh, you never, that was not something. I mean, were you raised to think that women just couldn't do things, or I mean, or were you raised to believe that women could do whatever they?
I believe that woman can do anything, because look what they do with their children, and they raise good children. Maybe some of them are kind of crazy, and but I think I've done a good job with my children and grandchildren.
Mm-hmm. Do I have a list of how many grandchildren you have?
Oh my God.
Is there a lot?
Help me, Susan.
I have to look in my notes. Because, yeah.
Okay.
Between cousins and like her brothers and sisters had between 3 and 12 children each. So you multiply that, and then their kids, they had a lot of kids, and then she's got a lot of great grandkids. So we've lost track because they've lost touch.
That's a lot.
People aren't keeping in touch with their elders these days.
Mm-hmm.
And I've tried and I'm giving up now because.
That's one thing I can say about Susan's son. She's got a great son, and he still remembers me, and I remember him. I took care of him. My husband and I took care of him when he was a little baby. In fact, I saw him being born. Daddy was calling me to find out, because he went through with me when I was having my kids, and he had a hard time believing that I could do that. So when I had when Susan came along, and I was in the hospital, I was just going by when they announced her, and she was coming out to deliver, and I saw Tosh being born.
Wow, Tosh?
Taj,
yeah.
Like Taj Mahal.
Oh, Tosh. Oh, that's kind of a cool name. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, when he was baptized by the Catholic Church, the priest said, because my oldest daughter and her husband, ex-husband, were sponsors. And the priest said, Tosh, we can't do that, but we're going to name him Joseph.
Because his father was Joseph. So he needed a Catholic name.
I see. Oh, that's interesting. Is that a thing? Is
that? Yeah, you need to have a saint's name in there, or Jesus or Mary.
Oh. Well, I know when I was confirmed, I had to do Patricia, which I guess is supposed to be like Patrick or like St. Patrick, because I was born on St. Patrick's Day.
Oh.
I guess. I don't know. No one ever explained that to me. I don't know. Because Jolene isn't a
Yeah.
Saint. Margaret is actually my real name, but that's for my maternal grandmother. So my dad used to tell me the story about when women gave birth, the fathers just sat outside. They didn't get to be part of it at all. And so when I was being born, he just sat there, and it was a real Catholic hospital, and the nuns came out and told him, what was going on. And I always thought that was so interesting that like, no, men, this is not for the faint-hearted men.
That's not fair, you know it?
Yeah. Well, now it's, if they want, they can be right there. But I guess that wasn't even allowed back, at least that was in Chicago, at a hospital that I was born at. Well, let's see, what else do I need to know?
From Chicago, do you know, what's the name of that black boy that has the show?
Oh, Steve Harvey?
Steve Harvey. He's so crazy.
Oh.
She loves Steve Harvey. What do you need, Mom? Kleenex?
That's it.
What was the day that you voted, or the picture that we have? What day was that? Does it say it on the?
I can probably get that for you.
I guess I
I
can.
don't know.
But like last week or something. It wasn't like.
Oh, it's more than a week.
I think it's been about 3 weeks, really.
Yeah, it was it's been quite a while. The beginning when they started.
You first got the absentee
Yeah,
ballot.
yeah.
I came over and helped you because she has a hard time seeing it, so.
Mm-hmm.
It's been about the first of last month, wasn't it?
Oh, I gotta work on my phone. I'm recording this, so.
Absentee ballot.
Yeah. Absentee, 'cause she's homebound. Trying to see calendar.
Well, it's okay. I want to maybe give a time thing, but.
I can send it to you. I'm
Okay.
gonna look when I turn the phone off.
Married life was a picnic, I hear. That's nice. I'm assuming your husband was also a straight Democratic ticket?
Oh, yeah, very much.
Did you ever have arguments over who to vote for or anything like that?
Never.
Okay.
If he said who it was, I went along with him. And he asked me, though, if I was happy with that. And I says, anything you say, it's all right with me.
So people like, you probably voted for Bruce King when he was governor.
Oh, yeah.
Bruce King several times that we could vote for him. I'm trying to think of any woman. I mean, you probably didn't vote for Susanna Martinez.
She was in Colorado at that time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, I never. I noticed she's not for the men the other night or something.
No, she kind of hasn't said, she hasn't endorsed him.
Yeah.
I'm asking her, actually, to give me a quote on her thoughts about the first woman president. But I haven't heard back from her, so I don't know. It's maybe a sticky situation since she's not her party.
Yeah.
But I said, just all politics aside, let's just talk about the historical implications of a woman finally breaking that glass ceiling. You know, they always talk about the glass ceiling. But maybe she's hoping that I forget. It's funny because you usually get something back from her spokesperson pretty fast saying, we'll work on that, we'll get you something. But they haven't said anything. And I gave that request a few days ago, so I thought, maybe she just doesn't want it. Because maybe she's, I said, you can wait until the results, if you want to, see how she's doing. Because I won't use it. Well, it would be weird to use the governor's comment if the election doesn't go the way we hope.
Well, she wasn't very much in favor for him.
No. They were in New York together once for a big
I saw
gala thing or something.
Yeah, I saw that in the news.
She speaks, and then he spoke right after, and it's almost like they didn't say, they ignored each other completely. She didn't say, and now here's Mr. Trump. And he didn't say, thank you. It was very icy. course, he said some not very nice things about her when he was here. So maybe that's what.
Well, the son told me the other day when he asked me who I was going to vote for, and I said, well, you know who I'm going to vote for. And he said, well, have you voted for the other people here of New Mexico?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, you know what, I don't know anybody no more.
Oh.
So I didn't know. But I say, as long as I vote Democratic,
Mm-hmm.
they're all Democratic for me.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people do that. You know, we used to have that thing where you could just vote straight Democrat ticket, and you only have to do one circle, and they got rid of that because
it's too bad.
They want people to not do that, I guess. Well, I think that's all I need. Thank you so very much for talking with me.
Well, my daughter surprised me. I didn't know I was going to do this. She always surprised me with something.
Does she?
She's a smart little girl. She was smart since she was that big. One time, her daddy, because they used to call her in this, and it was always in the mornings when we were doing breakfast. I guess they had used algebra.
Algebra, yeah.
And she used to, I guess the kids didn't know what it was or how it was. And Susan would say, go back to the old-fashioned arithmetic. And Daddy would wink at me. He was on the other side, and I was, what's that all about? So then we questioned her. He did, because her and her daddy were real close to. Oh yeah, when she came. And the other day I was dreaming about this. I said, how did Susan get? Because she used to work in a store where a newspaper, was it Roberts?
Where? Used
to work in the store. And she came one day with a family ring. And I said, how got you that? And she said, I asked Daddy, and Daddy said yes.
Oh, Zales had a family ring where you can put their birthstones of all her kids and then her and Daddy. And so we bought that for her, and it's got all of her kids' birthstones and her birthstone and Daddy's birthstone. So that was a surprise. I guess I was working at a jewelry store at the time, and I remember working at a jewelry store and talk about, you know how Trump felt like he could do whatever he wanted? The owner there felt like he could do whatever he wanted.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I quit. Yeah, he just, it was the same thing.
Well, you know, I've done stories about that whole thing and how it's been interesting to me that all these stories that have come up, women finally publicly talking about it, and I think that's been it can be very healthy. I mean, unless you need someone to help you process it all, but I think that's kind of good to finally get on the road to discussing and not hiding it like this big secret, but it's been interesting because of how many women.
I know, and then they don't give any credit that it's valid because they're saying, well, why did you wait so long? There's like no understanding of how you hold it in, and you feel so helpless at the time, and then you feel stupid because you think, oh, I should have, when you're older, you think, oh, I should have handled that differently, but when it's a different time and a different place, and you're a different age, and you just are like, you don't know.
I think I've been most disappointed with some reactions, some women against women saying, well, if it was me, and it's like, but you don't know that. There's just not a way unless you've been through that. You just don't get that.
Right.
And so the women that have not been very sympathetic are the ones that just baffle me.
Yeah.
I'm baffled every day though about some people's reactions to things. I'm like, how do you justify, voting for that person or supporting that person when this, or you have a disabled child? How do you, all those different
things.
Have
you been interviewing people like that?
Oh yeah, I don't. They tend not to become columns, but I have debates like that. I get a lot of emails from people, and so I try to respond, and I usually do a first round. Like I respond, even if it's a real nasty email, and then if it's a nasty email back, I may respond again, or I may just think, you know what,
Yeah.
this is wasting both our times.
Right. It never stops.
But I always am very polite, and I always say, I really want to understand. I'm like a student of sociology. I really want to understand how you come to this position and how you don't look at all these other things, and it's. I think the most baffling thing is I have a group of, or I had a group of friends who were all evangelical Christians, and I was so, and they're all Republicans, and I thought, oh God, you know, we best not talk about it. And then they brought it up. This is back in May. They brought up Trump, and they said, oh God, Trump, awful, awful, you know, and I was like, oh, I'm so relieved. Oh, that's so great. But now as all the candidates on the Republican side left, you know, or dropped out, they've all now switched to Trump. And I remember thinking, what happened to the, oh, yuck, he's terrible, you know, and so I don't really talk to them anymore. You know, they're just,
there's a lot of division now in the country. It's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how either candidate handles it. The aftermath.
That's one of the things I was asking about the couples. Couples have had real problems. You know, married couples, or just couples in general. There is the theory that even among Republican families, the wife just is like, sure, whatever you say, secretly voting for Hillary or maybe another one, just doesn't want to talk about it, you know, just because she knows I'll never hear the end of this, you know, or, you know, and that's to keep the peace in the family by simply not saying who they're going to vote for, or just being torn. You know, I also know people who are just torn, and I'm really curious to see what finally happens tomorrow, because even now they don't know who to vote for. They don't like Hillary, they don't like Trump, they don't like Gary Johnson, they don't really know anything about Jill Stein. And so does that mean they don't vote? I don't think a lot of them have decided that yet. So we'll see. I think that's why this is such a fascinating election, because though it seems like there's a poll out every hour, a new poll, or here are all these early voters, so we are going to assume this. I feel like, in a way, do we really even know any of this? We won't know until finally
and even exit polls, you know, people might be ashamed to say, like, they might not even want to say who they voted for, you know, because they don't want to be harassed or.
Right. So. And I do wonder, I mean, I'm hopeful, but I don't really know, when they talk about certain precincts where it's heavily Hispanic, and the Hispanic vote is very strong in lots of places, are they simply making the assumption that all Hispanics are going for Clinton, or do they have some certifiable data? You know, I mean,
they're just assuming because of his comments at the beginning. You know, about his.
I mean, I know a few Hispanics that are voting for Trump, just very, very few. But I know that there's a percentage out there, and I know they have done those sort of race things, but. I just think, let's not get cocky here. Let's just it's everyone's duty to go out and vote. You know, I'm having a real. I have a